So somebody don't clearly piss this man off. I literally just finished. Well, not literally just finished, but I posted this last time right here. Trump concedes with the Sidney Powell announcement because I thought that that was a concession, and I honestly do believe it was a genuine concession. He distanced himself from Sidney Powell. She was no longer directly representing him, which means she had standing issues. You know what I'm saying? He had already let the GSA start the transition process. It was clear that what was going on is this individual was not participating in continuing the bullshit of trying to stay in office. He cut a deal. He thought it was a good deal for himself and his family, and he was ready to chuck deuces and move on to 2024. However, and what's actually, let me add to that, because I didn't add this to the video as well, but we remember this Million MAGA March thing that was supposed to be going on, right? This Million MAGA March thing, right? Well, yeah, let's look at that. All right, this is from Vox. President Trump briefly drove by the Million MAGA March on his way to the golf course. So he didn't stop and speak. He didn't rally up people. He didn't roo-rah people. Remember, I told you, my theory, if you go back to this video, my theory was that he was going to have other performance metrics in that verbal agreement contract that he had to sort of slide out of office. And one of the things he probably would have had to not do is not rile his base as he's throwing, red meat at them. He couldn't rile them up. And so him not being a part of this Million MAGA March in any way, shape, fashion, or form actually was a good thing. Well, not a good thing. It was a metric of him actually taking a deal to leave office, right? That was truly what was going on behind the scenes, and it was sort of reinforcement. I wasn't able to get to this point because I think this happened the same weekend, right? So I posted this video and I moved on. I really don't follow this stuff like that. But I said that he was pretty much out of the door, and I said the reason why was that he only cares about himself. He's a narcissist. He cares about himself, his family, his legacy, in that order. And then once he steps out of that sphere of priorities, then that's when he can practice racism to a certain degree, right? Well, it's clear that somebody didn't get the picture. It's clear that somebody's playing games, because what they did was they went after his kids. I think a part of that deal had to be like, hey, you know what I'm saying, I'm going to use the same preemptive pardon. You notice, pause, you notice nobody's saying anything about this preemptive pardon from a standpoint of legality, right? They're just talking about whether or not it's appropriate. The reason why they're not talking about it as the legality of giving a preemptive pardon is because that's probably what was given to HRC. That was probably given to Hillary Rodham Clinton when Trump took office, and that's the reason why the FBI never really pursued any claims regarding those emails, because she already had a preemptive pardon from the incoming president, which, stifled any sort of investigation into the matter. And that's probably a common practice, right, in the White House for certain people, that they give either themselves or others preemptive pardons to shield them from law, because there's no database associated with these pardons, especially if it's preemptive. There's not like a searchable database that we can find to say, oh, well, he issued this pardon, this person, that person, this person, that person, that also included a CIA agent over here, an FBI agent over there, right? We don't have any of these things on a database, to my knowledge, right? But they're going after the preemptive pardon from a standpoint of not legality, but whether or not it's proper. And then they're dovetailing it to something that is a trigger point for Trump. They're dovetailing it with the idea of an investigation into the matter. Well, he's already gone through the Russia investigation, so when you attach investigation into the matter, he knows exactly what the incoming administration is going to do. They're going to take this quote-unquote pardon scheme, cash for pardon schemes, and run it for 4 years, right? Run it for 4 years in order to make sure that if he tries to run again, which I don't care, he's a racist, I don't care. I care about it only as it pertains to leverage for descendants of American slaves. Let's just be clear. Don't hype up my enthusiasm in this situation for anything other than my inner little girl being happy about the tea spilling in this situation, right? But anyways, so he knows that when they talk about investigation, especially this is coming out of his own DOJ. Remember, anything that comes out of the Department of Justice with regards to this investigation matter is coming from his own DOJ, which loops in Barr and loops in the statements from Barr of him trying to support the incoming administration. Because remember, Biden has said that he's trying to have a diverse a diverse Republicans and Democrats. He's trying to have Republicans and Democrats in his cabinet, right? I wonder whether or not Barr is either looking at a lobbying job or looking at some other job, and he's trying to make sure that he is friendly to the incoming administration such that he can, get that job whenever it actually comes through, right? But he threw him under the bus with the "I haven't looked for widespread" thing and stuff like that. But let's go. Let's do it because I have a video for that. So let's go through this.
Which is the president has discussed with his advisor pardons for his 3 eldest children and Giuliani. My first reaction to that is poor Tiffany Trump, as always. But what? I guess you could pardon your 3 eldest children and your attorney. That would squarely sit within the ability, Kim.
Well, I mean, you use the example I mentioned on NPR, but yesterday the example I might have used in addition to that is, sitting with a kiosk in front of the White House saying, "Give me money and I'll give you pardons." That would be some extraordinary example, off the charts example of how a pardon could be abused. And here we are. We're actually having that conversation with demonstrate that there has to be limits. And I should note, bribery, remember, we spent a lot of time talking about impeachment. Bribery is an express basis for impeachment, and you cannot use a pardon to excuse impeachment. So I think that itself shows that bribery, this kind of thing, was not in the minds of the framers. They really thought pardoning was about mercy and that it would be used judiciously. And pardoning your kids for unmentioned crimes, arguably, is problematic.
Well,
Let me say this. Republicans are the party, in my opinion, of the racist white male, right? The sort of brazen redneck hick type of person who wears their racism on their sleeves and doesn't apologize for it. That's the Republican Party. The Democrat Party is the party of Karens. It's just as racist, but just a slightly bit more conniving and annoying, right? And so what they're doing with this is they're setting up the framework to investigate Trump out of office to go after his kids. What did I tell you? He's a narcissist. He cares about himself, his kids, and his legacy, in that order. You're going after his kids, right? I guarantee you he had a deal with somebody. That deal was, hey, I'm a pardon myself, I'm a pardon my kids. We're not going to have to deal with this shit. We're going to return to private life. But in 2024, if I decide to run, I will decide to run. But I don't want to have any sort of bullshit that interferes with myself, my businesses, or my kids, right? And the other person on the other end of that deal said, yes, no problem. We're going to go ahead and give you that. That's no problem. And then somebody else decided to do this stupid shit. They decided to twist the knife just a little fucking bit in this situation. And then what do you get? You get this, right? Let me go scroll down through YouTube's bullshit little banner here. You get this that happened yesterday, right? This, I believe, was the speech that he had planned for the Million MAGA rally. And because he cut a deal, he decided not to actually go that route. He decided to distance himself from Sidney Powell. He decided to go ahead and go golf. He was chilling. He figures to himself, it doesn't matter. I got 74 million verified customers behind me. I'll be able to monopolize my brand into billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? And then I'll be able to run again in 2024 as a full lame duck candidate in 2024. I'll be able to fully run without any sort of ideas of doing any policy for a second term. I will know that I won't have a second term, right? And then they decided to do that shit going after his family, and so he decided to go right back into full blast mode. But I saw the speech But this was after the Barr situation, right? This was after the situation with Bill Barr throwing him underneath the bus next to the transmission, a little bit, his feet is next to the transmission, his head is somewhere close to the differential. He was thrown so far underneath the goddamn bus by Bill Barr. But I was waiting. Okay, so he's doing the speech, but he's gonna have to go after his DOJ. He's gonna have to go through against his attorney general. I was waiting on that, right? And lo and behold,
May be in sight. Will you support this bill? Do you support the $900 billion? Mitch McConnell says COVID relief may be in sight. Will you support this bill? Do you support the $900 billion?
And I think they're getting very close, and I want it to happen, and I believe that they're getting very close to a deal. Yeah.
And you'll support it? You'll sign
I will, absolutely.
Okay. Mr. President, can I ask you to respond to the comments by your Attorney General, who indicated he has not seen at this point any evidence of fraud enough to overturn the election results? Given that, why is now not the time to concede?
Well, he hasn't done anything, so he hasn't looked. When he looks, he'll see the kind of evidence that right now you're seeing in the Georgia Senate. You know, they're going through hearings right now in Georgia, and they're finding tremendous volumes. So they haven't looked very hard, which is a disappointment, to be honest with you, because it's massive fraud. Whether you go to Wisconsin, where we just filed a case, or Michigan, or if you look at what's happening in Georgia, as an example, or Pennsylvania, if you look at Nevada, which is moving along very rapidly, or Arizona, you saw those numbers come out yesterday. We found massive fraud, and in other states also. This is probably the most fraudulent election that anyone's ever seen.
Do you still have confidence in Bill Barr?
Ask me that in a number of weeks from now. They should be looking at all of this fraud. This is not civil. He thought it was civil. This is not civil. This is criminal stuff. This is very bad criminal stuff. So I just say this. We went through an election. At 10 o'clock, everybody said that was an easy victory for Trump. All of a sudden, the votes started disappearing, miraculously disappearing. We found much of it, but we found far more votes than we need in almost all of these states. And I think I can say in all of these states, far more votes than we need to win every one of them. And I want to just thank my team, because my team is doing an unbelievable job. And more importantly, I want to thank the 74 million plus people that voted, which, Lou, is the largest amount of people that a sitting president has ever had, 74 million plus. And because the level of loyalty, I've never seen anything like it. All over the country, they know it was a fixed election. It was a rigged election. They know it, and I appreciate their support. Thank you all very much.
Let me go back, and then I'm going to go forward. That's always the thing with me. I said in the last video that white supremacy is not a lawless situation. It's not a lawless system, right? To call somebody a white supremacist, even up to and including their act, or labeling their acts as a white supremacist act, right? It is not, even up to and including that person, or labeling the act of murder, is not a lawless act, right? White supremacy depends on cover of law. White supremacy depends on the legitimacy also of law. It depends on, hey, I'm a cop. I may be a racist piece of shit hick cop who is raised to hate black people, but when I'm shooting you, nigger, I'm doing so with the full faith and credit of the United States and the state of whatever state and the city of whatever bumfuck city I'm in order to shoot you. Now, yes, you may know that it's racist in your heart. That the reason why I pulled the trigger is because I wanted to kill me a nigger. But guess what? I'm doing so legally, right? So when you actually go back to this, I think people thought that, okay, so first of all, let me back up again and then I'll go forward. I think people thought, let's look at the Proud Boys situation. First of all, nobody said Proud Boys before Donald Trump said Proud Boys. In that interview where he was like stand by and stand back type shit, Donald Trump on his own, completely by himself, said the word Proud Boys. It wasn't go look at the video, go double check me. Donald Trump is the first person who said Proud Boys. in that instance. All right? But I think people were thinking that, oh, since he said that, then he's not gonna come back and say, then what we need to be looking for is him coming back and trying to say, hey, now Proud Boys, we need you to stand up. You are very, very dumb. The Proud Boys are not the army of white supremacy. These bumfuck militia groups are not the army of white supremacy. The army of white supremacy is the U.S. military, which dovetails back also the fact that the Secretary of Defense was replaced recently. The army of white supremacy is the U.S. military. It's the U.S. military, right? When he's making this statement, when he's laying out the ground rules of the fact that this presidency, this election was completely illegitimate, right? He's triggering the part of every single government official's oath, which is enemies, foreign, and domestic. He is defining domestic enemies in this speech. He is activating not just some bumfuck militia group, not some 80-some fucking year old white guy with a MAGA hat and a Confederate flag in his backyard next to the chicken coop. He's laying out a ideological groundwork for generals to split, some for and some against, for military personnel to split, some for and some against, right? He's laying the groundwork on that level, and then also laying the groundwork on the mid and lower level. That's what this speech was. And when you talk about why they didn't want to air the speech, that is the reason why. Is because they know that the underlying foundation of white supremacy is legality. And what this individual is doing with this speech is laying out the legal framework for insurrection. That's what he's doing. So when you go back to this part where he's blasting Barr, I still need to see one more thing and therefore I'll contingent my conclusion on this one more thing. I still need to see whether or not he's going to replace Barr. At this late hour, I need to see whether or not he's going to replace Barr. If he does, he's not leaving office, is my prediction. I'll skip to that right now. He's not leaving office, all right? If he replaces Bill Barr, that is going to be at this late hour. We're talking about a month and some change. If he replaces Bill Barr, he is not going to leave office. He's already replaced his Secretary of Defense. So I guarantee you he will be talking to his Secretary of Defense about, hey, what if I decide to stay? What if I decide to declare martial law? What can I do in order to stay in the office? Because I'm not leaving office and having these vultures come after my money, come after my family, come after my businesses, come after my legacy, like they're planning on doing, like they're playing around trying to do when it comes down to this pardon scheme. He knows that every fucking president before him has misused that pardon system. Whether or not they did it for cash in exchange or not, he knows every other president has done that. But he knows, like the Russia situation, that if they decide to come after him, they're going to be coming after him with somebody else sitting in that power seat. And they're going to be coming after him for the entire time of the 4 years. And they know that the easiest way to guarantee that he doesn't run in 2024 is to put him in jail. So they're going to be trying to do that with both him and his family directly. And that's the reason why he's deciding to turn 180 and do what he's doing. That speech right here, I'm going to say it again. This speech was planned, I believe, for this Million MAGA March. That's where he was planning on providing the speech. But as a part of him showing good faith in whatever deal he made, he decided not to go. Right? But they decided to go ahead and push the shit in this little manner of going after his kids and saying that he can't pardon his kids. And he's like, nah, fuck that then. Nah, fuck that then. Then I'm going to go ahead and stay. So what is he doing right now? Something I love. I love, love, love.
All right, folks, we will We'll go back to that in just a little bit, but I do have some breaking news that I want to get to right here on News Now from Fox, where this is just coming down. The President Trump's administration is now suing Facebook. Let's get into that right here on News Now from Fox. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. Trump administration claims Facebook improperly reserved jobs for H-1B workers. The Trump administration has sued Facebook Incorporated, accusing the social media giant of illegally reserving high-paying jobs for immigrant workers it was sponsoring for permanent residents rather than searching for available U.S. residents who could fill the positions. In a 17-page complaint filed today, the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division said Facebook inadequately advertised at least 2,600 positions between 2018 and 2019 that were filled by immigrants on H-1B high-skill visas when the company was applying to sponsor those workers for permanent residency, known as green cards. Companies sponsoring workers for employment-based green cards are required to show as part of the federal application process that they couldn't find any qualified American workers to fill that job. The suit said Facebook didn't advertise the reserved positions on its website and requires candidates to mail in their applications rather than accepting them online. So we will continue to follow this breaking news story here. We just wanted to bring that to your attention right now. So far, Facebook has no comment on this lawsuit that was just filed there. So bringing you always the latest right here.
Now, I love this. I say it now and I still say it again. He still has some sort of wiggle room. It's kind of difficult now because of the time horizon. But listening to his little bastard ass stepson or son-in-law, Jared Kushner, when it came down to H-1Bs was a dumbass idea. What he should have done at the beginning of this, in the summer, when this pandemic was sort of trickling off, he should have kicked out every single fucking H-1B person within this country. With 11 plus million, or at the time it was 20 plus million unemployed Americans, there should have been 0 H-1B visa individuals within this country, right? He would have had a nice little time horizon. It would have been great red meat to his base, but he thought he was going to win regardless. And his son probably convinced him of the need for corporate donors, right? And so he didn't do it. But now he's doing that. He's trying to throw red meat some way, somehow to his base. Because he wants to show that, hey, if I stay in office, I can complete this and that and the third. I think he's not leaving office. That's my personal belief. I don't believe he's leaving office. I don't believe that. I believe he's going to try to stay in office as much as possible. I think right now he's going to try every single trick in the book. But I think I need to see one more thing before I make the prediction solid. I need to see, at this late hour, I need to see whether or not he's going to change out his attorney general. That's number one. Number two, I'm probably going to want to also see whether or not he tries to cease the GSA transition process. Whether or not he tries to halt that process. I need to see that too. But that may be a foregone conclusion. But I want to see whether or not he replaces Barr. If he replaces Bill Barr, yeah, shit's going to hit the fan. Shit's going to hit the fan.